Richard, tonight is debate night, and all of us are going to be sitting down in front of our TVs or in front of our computers or have our smartphones or our tablets accessible while we listen to Joe Biden rant on about how the police are racist and how we need to abolish them and get rid of them and support rioting and looting and burning and stealing and raping and pillaging and extortion in our neighborhoods. And man, it's going to rile us up. But if you need a little bit more energy, what better to go with the debate than a good old-fashioned cup of Joe, some Law Dog coffee? Because we know that you love coffee, and we know that you back the blue, and we know that you defend police, and we know that you support law enforcement. There's no better way to do that, to accomplish both, to have good coffee and support law enforcement, than to get over and get yourself some Law Dog coffee. If you haven't tried it yet, you got to try it. I have amazing blends over there. I'm drinking the St. Michael's blend today. The True Blue blend is out there. Richard, you like the Warrior blend. Get over there and support law enforcement. 6,000 documented 6,000 families have been helped by Law Dog Coffee and the Wounded Blue. A portion of the proceeds goes to the Wounded Blue with every purchase at Law Dog Coffee. Use the promo code PCRadio at lawdogcoffeepcradio.com. lawdogcoffeepcradio.com. That's lawdogcoffeepcradio.com.
Broadcasting live from the highest cloud of privileged patriotism. The PC Radio Show is on Mojo 50 Radio.
It is debate night tonight, and the mute button is going to be featured. We'll get into some of that. It is Thursday today. I love Thursdays. I get to go bowling on Thursdays, which, I don't know, I guess that's just another indication of how old I'm getting. I enjoy stuff like that. Now, welcome into PC Radio to the millions that join us on iHeartRadio. If you're new to PC Radio, welcome to the Relentless Truth Seekers Squad. The Democrats took their little ball from the playground today, Richard, and went home in protest as Democratic members of the Senate Judiciary Committee boycotted the Amy Coney Barrett committee hearing ahead of Monday's confirmation vote, where I'm told the Republicans have the votes.
Well, we'll see about that.
Well, I'm told, yeah, there's nothing that the Democrats can do to stop the confirmation of ACB. She'll be the third conservative justice. Well, they're going to try, but there's just nothing they can do. That's why they're crying right now, because this will be the third conservative justice nominated by President Trump. Tonight is debate night. It is the final debate between freedom and communism. The final debate between individual liberty and Marxism.
The mute button thing drives me a little nuts. So they're gonna mute the president and allow Joe Biden to lie his ass off for 2 minutes or more at a time.
Yeah. The final debate between love for our country and American apology. Tonight's debate will feature that mute button, which basically, Richard, just mirrors the muting of Americans by big tech giants and social media conglomerates like Twitter and Facebook. I don't know if you heard this or not, but as of this morning, the New York Post has been suspended from Twitter for a period of 8 days. The fourth largest publication in the United States has been censored. Americans are losing their businesses just for speaking out against tyrants and corruption. Mm-hmm. We know them. We know of them. The fourth largest publication in the United States, Richard, they've been censored by Twitter for 8 days.
I can't say that I'm surprised at all. It's ridiculous.
Well, I'm definitely glorifying. I'm glorified today. I'm just ecstatic today as I watch these Democrats just lose their effing minds. And anybody who speaks out against tyrants and corruption, this is a desperate attempt by fascists to instill a one world order, effectively replacing a free republic, a free democracy, with a totalitarian regime. The mute button will be designed to basically prohibit the president from asking the Chinese compromised former vice president with a crackhead son about the laptop that everybody knows belongs to him, but now the media is jumping all over this thing and saying, oh, it can't be his. It's Russian collusion. Once again, the Russians strike again. His attorney is saying, oh, no, it's not his. Well, then if it's not his, why did his attorney ask for it back? We know we're learning a lot about this crackhead son. Like, for example, the fact that he likes to lay naked with little kids.
Yeah, wasn't there pictures of him with some little girl?
Yeah. According to a bombshell new report, inappropriate photos of underage girls were found on former Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden's laptop. Of those photos found on the laptop, approximately 1/3 of them were of a Biden relative who's allegedly 14 years old. The report alleges that Hunter Biden was in some of these inappropriate photos where this relative who's 14 years old was lying naked.
Ick, dude. I hope he gets everything he deserves.
Well, this is more than just him getting what he deserves, Richard. I'll be surprised if there's actually a debate tonight. I mean, I don't know how the vice president can stand on a stage and go on with all of this going on. According to reports, the claims that have seen the images on Hunter's laptop told Revolver that about 1/3 of the images are of the same underage girl. Some of the images are topless, while in others she's shown in suggestive positions with Hunter himself. Revolver News reports.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe they won't be a debate, and I'm sure that if he gets on that stage, he's going to get asked about it or drilled about it.
Well, he's going to be the president will be muted.
He'll walk off.
Maybe. On Tuesday, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani announced that he had turned over Hunter Biden's laptop to Delaware State Police after he found photos of underage girls and sensitive messages on the computer. And then the news came out that, Rudy Giuliani is compromised by the Russians, right? I mean, he's compromised. The comments came during an interview on Greg Kelly's show on Newsmax that we were watching earlier this morning. And according to text messages that Giuliani shared, now listen to this. Hunter Biden had sent a text message to his dad, to Joe Biden, the former vice president, who yesterday we showed you in pictures in the Oval Office in the White House with Hunter's business partners. He sent these texts to his dad, Joe Biden, saying that he FaceTimed naked with a 14-year-old girl while on crack cocaine.
Just the stupidity is dumbfounding to me. And you know what else, man, is so in the other article they posted last night where they had the receipts. The FBI gave receipts of the things that they've taken and so they could inventory it. Well, it said it was an Apple MacBook. So I'm sure that there's a whole lot of stuff on there because, as we all know, as iPhone users, all of your text messages, as long as it's iMessage, is on your computer as well.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing this is just the start of the flood of Joe Biden's bullshit.
So in this conversation, they were talking about how Hunter Biden had this affair with his sister-in-law turned lover, and the text messages read this: "She told my therapist that I was sexually inappropriate with her when she says that I FaceTime naked with her. And the reason I can't have her out to see me is because I'll walk around naked, smoking crack, talking to girls on FaceTime." And when she was pressed, she said that she never said anything like that. But the bottom line is that, he then continues in his text message by saying he created and caused a very unsafe environment for the kids. If it stopped there, I would let it go. These are text messages being obtained by Rudy Giuliani, by the Justice Department, by the FBI regarding Hunter Biden. This is. I mean, how the Democrats can even continue is beyond me. This is where we come up with Kamala.
Pretty pissed off about all this stuff. Even the ones that on the far radical left, the last thing they want is a pedophile supporting person to be in the office of the president, I would think.
A pedophile supporting person. Yeah, I mean, he is a pedophile.
Among other things.
Yeah, and then Joe Biden himself was on the Lolita Express. He's documented being on Epstein's plane. Hey, do you recognize this guy? He goes by Joe. He's the co-owner of Blind Pig. He's the guy that you see in the Joe Biden campaign ads. Well, for the past week, the campaign has been running an ad featuring this struggling Michigan bar owner. Okay, his name is Joe Malkoon. He suggested that his family and community is suffering because of Trump's COVID response. Well, as fate would have it, this bar owner isn't struggling at all. He is a wealthy big tech investor. So Biden, once again, caught in another lie. The media won't talk about it.
Well, and that makes no sense.
The story from the Daily Caller says that Malkoun told a Michigan-based NBC affiliate in 2018 that he received a lottery-like inheritance from his wife's grandmother about a decade ago and used those funds to become the go-to guy for people seeking angel investors for tech companies, these startup companies in the Ann Arbor area. And so this guy right here that you're looking at, he's a millionaire. But he's featured in these Joe Biden campaign ads as this struggling bar owner who's been just completely depressed by, the Trump response to COVID. Usually you become a CEO and you make money, and then the money allows you to become an angel investor, is what Malkoun said in 2018. And then he said, quote, I happen to have different circumstances where I had money first.
Well, Trump's response to COVID, that's bullshit, because the governors were responsible for, putting out regulations for COVID. I think Trump told the governors, handle your shit.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need help.
In this really dark campaign ad, Malkoun said, we don't know how much longer we can survive not having any revenue. A lot of restaurants and bars that have been mainstays for many years will not make it through this. The only hope for my family is that Biden is elected and that Trump is gone. The only hope for our community is that Biden is elected and that Trump is gone.
Yeah, okay.
Barack hosted the drive-through campaign. What was that? The rally where you what's so funny? What's going on here?
Barack
Obama.
Oh boy!
Turning on his deep South African American dialect. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He turns that thing on and off. Here's one of the things that he said.
And with Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day.
Right, every day. Every day. You're not going to have to think about Biden saying anything crazy every day. Really?
By the way, I sit on the stand. And it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
And with Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about crazy things being said, like the hair on my legs being rubbed down by little kids and how I love roaches and little kids jumping on my lap. That's not crazy at all. I mean, this is a guy that's definitely fit to be the president of the United States. I don't know why anybody would question it, and I would just blindly go ahead, because I'm a liberal Democrat, and go to the polling site and pull the lever for Joe Biden because of my Trump derangement syndrome and how much I hate the orange man and how racist he is, because, damn it, the media has been telling me that since he came down the escalator. By the way, the same media that propped him up and made him, and by the same Hollywood elitists that loved him, by the way, women and black people who hugged up on him and had him in their music videos, and he was a New York mogul, and he's done nothing but employ minorities and given opportunities to women for his entire life since he's come into his fortune and then built his fortune even more. But then you listen to Obama, and he speaks truth like this.
And with Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day.
Yeah, at the drive-through rally. Did you hear all the horns honking at that thing? It's the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen in my life. We don't have to worry about Biden or Kamala saying crazy things.
150 million people have been killed since 2007 when Bernie voted to exempt the gun manufacturers from liability. It would put 720 million women back in the workforce. Nobody should be in jail for a nonviolent crime. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. What's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? And what a neat town.
Oh, yeah.
Play the radio. Make sure make sure you have the record player on at night.
Mm-hmm.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
And with Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day.
Any questions, Richard? Any questions? I mean, you're not going to have to worry about people saying crazy things with Joe and Kamala at the helm.
Yeah, and who cares about what Baraki says? I believe that if I read it right and I remember correctly, there was like 90-something cars there at this old drive-in movie theater where they set up a stage for him to speak.
Huge audience.
Yeah, huge. And didn't President Trump have like 13,000 people the other day?
13 and another 25,000 that couldn't get in, that bought applied for the tickets. I don't know. I don't think they're sold or anything. I think they're free. But you have to apply for these tickets. And everywhere that the guy goes, there's a sea of people. I mean, I've seen some of this drone footage, some of these aerial photos of some of these Trump campaign rallies. It's absolutely mind-boggling that anybody can look at these polls and believe anything the media is telling you. But Obama says...
And with Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day.
I love cockroaches, and I learned a lot about cockroaches, and I learned a lot about, kids jumping on my lap, and I like when little kids jump on my lap. What about Kamala, the most radical senator to ever sit in our government at the federal level? I mean... There's no question about it. You got congresswomen like Rashida Tlaib and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, members of the Squad, Ilhan Omar, definitely very radical. But as far as the Senate side is concerned, there's never been anyone more radical who, by the way, supports the burning of your cities, supports the looting and the robbing and the stealing and the extortion. Black Lives Matter, the new ISIS for pussies called Antifa, and she doesn't think it should end. Here's crazy Kamala.
And I want to make clear that I know that there are protests still happening.
They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not. This is a movement. I'm telling you, they're not going to stop.
Are they going to stop?
And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after election.
And with Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day.
It's just...
I think they're going to keep going.
The fact that you think they're going to, the riots, they're going to keep going.
Yeah, and then they're going to take a right, and they're going to keep going. They're not going to stop.
They're not going to stop?
Nope, not going to stop.
Well, hold on, because I want to make this clear here.
And I want to make clear that I know that there are protests still happening.
They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not. This is
hold on, I have a question.
I'm telling you.
Are they going to stop?
They're not going to stop. And everyone beware.
They're going to take a left.
They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after election.
She's supporting the looting and burning and robbing and stealing totalitarian Marxist fascist takeover of this country right on national television, and the media wants to talk nothing about it.
Yeah, and it's going to be Sleepy Joe and the camel, and hopefully they're just walking down the street together, and it's all over.
I'm just looking at this now. Hunter Biden's ex-business partner, this is breaking right now, has come forward and confirms Joe Biden's involvement in China dealings. On Wednesday night, according to Trending Politics, Hunter Biden's business partner, Tony Bobulinski, came forward and confirmed that Joe Biden, also known as, quote, the big guy, was actively involved in a Biden family scheme to make millions off of communist China. Bobulinski explains how he was a former partner of Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and Jim Biden, Joe Biden's brother, and confirmed that he was one of the recipients of the bombshell email from May 13, 2017, published by the New York Post. The email said that 10% of deals were set aside for the big guy. That would be Joe Biden. Now, new email listed Kamala Harris as key domestic target in a Hunter Biden China scheme. This is a new email involving Jim and Hunter Biden's involvement in now bankrupt CEFC, the China energy company, references Senator Kamala Harris Harris as a key domestic target. Harris is ironically now former Vice President Joe Biden's running mate. The hits just keep on coming. Judiciary Committee is officially authorizing big tech subpoenas now. This morning, just moments after the Senate Judiciary Committee unanimously voted 12-0 on Amy Coney Barrett's Supreme Court nomination, a vote was held to decide whether or not to authorize subpoenas for big tech giants Twitter and Facebook. Both Twitter and Facebook, along with CEOs Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg, have been complicit in massive censorship campaigns regarding the Joe and Hunter Biden laptop scandal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Seems to me that there certainly is treachery afoot.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. The Dems now planning to boycott Amy Coney Barrett's Judiciary Committee vote, with their frustration mounting that they will be unable to prevent the confirmation of Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. Dems are let to sputter in rage and engage in tantrum throwing. This is our government. Here's the thing. What pisses me off is if I have a job to do, I have to go do it or I don't get paid. Do you think that if you're listening out there, let me just ask you a question. Would your boss, if you just said, I'm really pissed off about these new policies and I don't like the way that Judy holds her pencil and the way that Leslie rides in the elevator because she always pushes the button that goes up before it goes down, and I'm really mad about this, so I'm not coming to work. By the way, I still want to get paid. These people work for us. How about go to Washington and do your effing jobs? Every American should be totally pissed off about this.
Yes, sir. None of it surprises me one bit. None of it does. It's very disheartening, though. It's disappointing, but not surprised at all.
I want to see more about this. The list included Harris, a Democrat from California, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, Dianne Feinstein, Kirsten Gillibrand, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, and former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, among others. The email is unrelated to the laptop or hard drive reportedly belonging to Hunter Biden, the former vice president's son, but it's unclear if any of the Democrats were ever contacted about the target projects. But the email was sent from Jim to Hunter Biden, Tony Bobulinski, Rob Walker, and James Gilliar. Bobulinski was an institutional investor who was recruited by the Biden family to run their joint venture with the now bankrupt CEFC China Energy Company. So Hunter Biden, who had no experience in energy or experience in the Ukraine, gets paid reportedly up to $85,000 a month from a Ukrainian energy company to sit on their board of directors. That in and of itself indicates the quid pro quo, and quid pro quo equals Joe. Joe Biden specifically said and repeatedly has touted and bragged on national television about how he gave the Ukrainian regime an ultimatum to either fire a special prosecutor that was appointed to investigate Burisma, or they wouldn't get the $1 billion that the Obama administration had promised them. And what do you know? They fired him. It's a cover-up for a quid pro quo where Joe Biden talks about the corrupt administration of Donald Trump, and the media wants to tell you that Donald Trump is a racist, that Donald Trump is a liar, that Donald Trump's administration is full of corruption and backroom deals, and everything the media is telling you that Donald Trump is exactly what Joe Biden and Kamala are.
And you know what? Maybe someday it'll come out that Trump and his administration was crooked as shit too. But they're not. It's not out there. It's not in your face. Clearly, these people are really bad at hiding their lies. They're bad at being politicians. They don't give a shit about you or me or anybody else, but their money, their power, and whatever is coming next.
This former business partner of Hunter Biden, Bobulinski, told Fox News, "I was brought into the company to be the CEO, James Gilliar and Hunter Biden," Bobulinski said in a statement. The reference to the big guy in the much publicized May 13, 2017 email is in fact a reference to Joe Biden. The other JB referenced in that email is Jim Biden, Joe's brother. Bobulinski was referring to an email Fox News obtained last week dated May 13, 2017, which included a discussion of It's Thursday.
Yes?
It's not supposed to be like this, but it is 2020. 6 people that were involved in a business deal with a Chinese energy firm. The email appeared to identify Biden as chair, vice chair, depending on agreement with CEFC, in an apparent reference to now bankrupt CEFC China Energy Company. The hits just keep on coming. There's no way for the Biden campaign to escape any of this, Richard. This is... And the reason for the censorship, the 8-day censorship from the New York Post, is because everybody knows that they are the publication that will dig into this, whereas the Times and other liberal rags will not dig into this. So big tech is investing millions of dollars into a coup and into getting this president, this former vice president, this corrupt asshole who's compromised by the Chinese, the Russians, and the Ukrainians, elected to be the leader of the free world, as prophesized yesterday on this show.
If you ask me, these big tech companies are just helping the story get bigger and bigger and bigger. You're going to censor the New York Post for 8 days. Well, it leaves a few days. So they got 8 days to get their shit together.
12 days till the general election.
One hell of a bomb.
Yeah.
But yet they're censoring all these people and they're trying to cover all this up. Well, now everybody's a whole lot more interested in what the hell's going on.
Absolutely.
So I think they're doing themselves a great disservice. Mm-hmm. Why not just let it all be put out there like it was meant to be?
And they're going to censor the president in tonight's debate. Absolutely unbelievable. In the second half, we have Ben Schwanke. He is a candidate for Minnesota State Senate. Stick around.
Prop 25 ends our right to put up bail for anyone, even though they may have been racially profiled. Prop 25 replaces bail with computer algorithms. Academic studies show that these algorithms are biased. Some call them black boxes. And Prop 25's new bureaucracy delays justice for innocent people stuck in jail. The NAACP asks you to vote no on Proposition 25.
Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard coming at you live on iHeartRadio, on Mojo 50 Radio, on Clout Hub, on the OpsLens Network, on Facebook, on Twitter, and anywhere that you might get your podcasts on debate night on this Thursday afternoon, just hours away from the final debate where the mute button will be featured, and you may not know what the president really wants to say. I mean, they're going to censor him too. Why not? Let's censor everything except for your desire to wear great jewelry, custom jewelry that can be designed for you specifically by Johnson Jewelers. Yeah, they're located in Minnesota, but they're online worldwide at johnsonjewelers.com, and they're able to help you with that special pendant that you might have been left behind by somebody who was in your family that is no longer with us, and that thing is really important to you. So why shove it under your pillow? Why shove it in your safety deposit box, and don't shove it up your ass? Shove it in the mail and send it to Johnson Jewelers, along with a few emails and a phone call here and there. You can describe to them exactly what it is that you want Johnson Jewelers to make for you. Maybe it's a pin that you want to wear on your lapel, or maybe it's some earrings or a necklace or a pendant, something that can bring grandma or grandpa or auntie or uncle closer to you with that special thing that they left behind for you. So get it out of your safety deposit box, get it out from underneath your pillow and pull it out of your ass. Wipe it off first and wash it before you send it to the great people over at Johnson Jewelers. You can go visit them online right now, johnsonjewelers.com, johnsonjewelers.com. That's johnsonjewelers.com.
The enemy of progressive politicians and politically correct assholes. PC Radio. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
Welcome back to this second half of the Patriotically Correct Radio Show, brought to you by Law Dog Coffee. Make sure that you get over there. Law Dog Coffee, PCRadio.com. Law Dog Coffee, PCRadio.com. If you back the blue and if you support law enforcement, every purchase that you make of Law Dog Coffee will go to support the wounded blue. There's just no better way to show your support for law enforcement. I mean, other than, you can give a cop a hug, you can thank a cop every day. We appreciate that. You can stand up for the police and not stand for this false narrative of systemic racism, which has created this polarization and division between you and I as Americans on the streets of America. absolutely insane that we have been able to be divided and that there is so much hate out here going on. And that is why we're seeing people continue to walk away. And this is all perpetuated by the left. There's no question. We've talked about this ad nauseum here on PC Radio. We've talked to Brett Kokonatis, who was a former candidate for U.S. Senate down in Arizona, who's down there in the People's Republic under Grisham, the governor down there. We have our own tyrant here in Minnesota, being Governor Walz over there on Summit Avenue. We have people like Ilhan Omar that are part of the Squad, a bunch of radicals in the United States Congress. And what I've been encouraging people to do is get more closely involved with their local elections. We talked about this the other day on the show, Richard, that, so many people are so focused on the Trump-Biden campaign deal that you forget that what happens locally is it's actually like a trickle up effect, if you will, because everybody that's there in the federal government comes from somewhere. They don't just automatically just become elected. They kind of, they maybe were on a school board. And if you want to talk school boards, I mean, let's talk about the way that the COVID responses have happened in your school and the policies on whether or not your kid can sit next to his or her peer at lunchtime, or whether they're allowed to go out for recess, or having a mask on the entire time they're in school, when there's no scientific data that supports masking, and there's not one documented case from Wuhan, China, all the way to the United States about a child passing this thing on to an adult. They're not the super spreaders that they told us that they were, and now these lies are starting to come out, and people are starting to become more educated. Get involved with your local elections, which, by the way, I want to bring in somebody now from our home state of Minnesota. Ben Schwanke is a candidate for Minnesota Senate. He's a high school teacher and a football coach. We can get with that, Richard. Ben, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here, and we love having you on to talk about your platform.
Hey, yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys having me on here and focusing on the local elections. As you said, that's really, where a lot of the major decisions are actually made. But like you said, everybody else tends to focus on more of the national stuff. So thank you for focusing on this.
Absolutely. I wanted to first talk to you a little bit, Ben, about we're big supporters of law enforcement, as you probably heard here at the beginning of the second half of our show, and there's this false narrative of systemic racism in law enforcement. And Minnesota is the epicenter with the George Floyd incident that took place in Minneapolis. And we've had our dealings here with Jamar Clark and with Philando Castile, and these things have been really blown up in the media. And as a result of that, there has been this almost instigation by our elected representatives here in the state of Minnesota that has actually almost been a proponent of some of this looting and justifying of some of this rioting, even when the police are not involved in the death of somebody. For example, the murder suspect who killed himself on the streets of Minneapolis, false information goes through social media, and then because of this emboldened sense of entitlement and this embrazened attitude by the criminal element here in Minneapolis, or in greater Minnesota, we have law enforcement officers that are at great risk. Do you want to opine on that? I mean, you're the incumbent in the Senate seat that you wish to take has his viewpoints of it. Let me just we'll just go to that. This is Jason Isaacson.
Focus isn't, in my mind, the riots. The focus is the death and the lack of response on our side. We need to be clear and more stringent that this kind of behavior just is never acceptable.
So, I mean, Ben, your opponent is saying that his focus is not on the riots, and that is pretty much the liberal talking points that happen at the national level, at the state level, and now at the local level. To that, you say what?
And that's where, I think we can chew gum and walk at the same time. There's two different situations that are going on here, and both absolutely should be a focus. And one of the focuses should be, we always need to be reforming all government institutions, right? We need to make sure that they are up to date, that they're doing the right things, and that they're efficient for us. And then the other, conversation that can also be going on is, are the riots okay? And absolutely not. They're destroying the communities that are already suffering in those areas, and it's going to take a long time for them to be able to build back and get the jobs that they were just experiencing. And so to completely rule out the riots and the destruction that it had in Minneapolis is just a major error and disservice to all the people that live in those communities who are now losing their jobs and don't have the opportunity for economic growth anymore.
I think that it's clear that this Mr. Isaacson's view is just mimicking that of everyone else in the party all across the country. And I don't know how for 1 minute. I think that both the issues are a big deal. I think that the deaths of all these people that are claimed to be at the hands of the police don't need to happen, right?
Absolutely.
If you cooperate, you're not gonna get manhandled. You're not gonna get shot. You're not gonna get killed. But also, in my opinion, the rioting is even more of an issue because although the deaths are tragic, the rioting affects a whole lot larger of a percentage of the community in which these riots are happening. And I don't agree that that should be downplayed or overshadowed by this false narrative of systemic racism and all this other BS.
That's right. I absolutely agree with you. There is no reason that we should be downplaying these riots. They've been going on now, especially out west in a lot of those states. They've been going on now for over 50, 70 days, and they're nonstop, and they're continuing over and over and over again. And so how do you expect these people that live in these neighborhoods to go to school, whether it's online or a hybrid version or whatever it is? How do you expect them to be able to feel safe in their neighborhoods, to continue to be able to educate their children, and then to go out and be able to just go about their daily lives of either, shopping? Is there even a grocery store anymore in their neighborhood? Or do they have to go way outside their neighborhood to be able to go shopping and provide for their family? Do they have their job anymore there? So it affects them in so many different ways, and not just with one night of destruction, but that's an ongoing effect that's negatively impacting the community. And like you said, it's much more widespread. That's affecting hundreds of people.
You talk about educating our children, and obviously, I mean, both Richard and I are parents. We have kids. I have 3. Richard has a couple of dozen, and we spend time educating our kids by having these conversations at the dinner table. I mean, if they see something on the news and they have questions, we do our best to try to pass that on. Educating kids is something that you're passionate about. You're an educator, and what we see here as teachers and professors is that pretty much systemically, educators have adopted this theory of social justice and liberalism. So have you received any pushback from your own union or from fellow educators, because you're a conservative Republican and you're running for for a state Senate seat? That's kind of out of the norm. We love it. I love seeing it. But have you received any pushback?
Not really, actually. At least especially at my local level and with my local teachers, my local union, I'm actually getting a lot of support from them. They're excited. They know, like you said, I am unabashedly conservative. I believe that government continually needs to be looked at and right-sized and get back to its founding principles. And so they know that I'm not preaching that to the kids or anything. I'm just teaching math. That's what I believe I should be doing them, is teach math.
Yeah.
But the teachers know. They know where I'm at with that. And so it's been awesome to see the outpouring support that they have for me. A lot of teachers have came out and said, yes, I support Ben Schwanke. They've been out talking to their neighbors and talking to other people. And so it's great when we can actually get to that level and have a conversation, because even though most of them that I'm talking with usually vote for the leftist side, a lot of them are then coming to me and saying, hey, but I know you, I trust you, I get what you're doing, I know your intent, absolutely, I'll support you.
That's identity politics. I mean, they put you in a box because of the fact that you're an educator. You just must have to be a liberal Democrat, or because you're an educator that you must just have to pull the lever for a liberal Democrat, or because, and I'll go outside of the educator stuff, and I don't know if you want to opine on this or not, but because you're a black person, you automatically have to vote for a liberal Democrat. This is identity politics, which essentially just tells teachers, educators, professors, black people, minorities, immigrants, you're too stupid to make up your own mind.
Well, and I get a lot of that actually in the gay community too. I just actually had the former ambassador to Germany, Rick Grinnell, came into our district, and he was out helping campaign, and he's the first only openly gay person to ever serve in a presidential cabinet. But do we hear any positive news from the media? No, because it doesn't fit their narrative. And that's the exact same kind of thing that I get, and that's one of the reasons why I do consider myself on the conservative side, is because even though some people may disagree or not understand or, have a different view on it, they don't put me in a silo. They still welcome me. They're excited that I'm here, and they're excited that I share, their similar beliefs with the founding principles and the principles of what government's going to be. And so that's absolutely where, that's kind of our message in saying, look, you can think for yourself. And that's why I'm running, because I trust that you can think for yourself, and we here as a community will be here to support you.
Well, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Somebody running for office that expects voters to think for themselves.
Yeah, it's refreshing,
Holy
isn't it?
Shit.
It's refreshing, totally refreshing. And then also you're a member of your community, and over and above teaching, you also are involved with coaching high school football. That's something I can get with. I know Richard as well. Both of us are former players and coaches. I was part of a defensive backfield. Richard he would have been your guy because you're an offensive defensive line coach. So how long have you been doing that, Mr. Schwanke?
I've been coaching off and on, kind of ever since through college at that level. So I decided not to play college football due to a few different circumstances, but and just got right into coaching there. And so I've been kind of off and on coaching football in various locations for about 8 years now. And like you said, right now I'm doing no more the offensive and defensive line. But however, this fall, especially with the COVID and kind of the Senate race, I've taken a little bit of a step back from that and more just volunteering to help whenever I can.
Well, I think there wasn't much of a season this year anyway, from what I understand.
Well, it just got started, so we're looking at week 2 here, and hopefully, I'm hoping and praying for the kids that they're able to keep their season going, because as you guys know, that's just kind of like a rite of passage and a lot of fun for high school kids when you're getting to play sports on the Friday night lights or the Saturday night lights, just being with your best friends that you grew up with. And so being able to have that experience, I'm really hoping that they're able to continue out the season, especially now seeing all the snow on the ground too, because that's when all the games get fun.
Absolutely. I loved playing in the snow. I love playing in precipitation of any kind. Friday night lights under the rainstorms because I coached in Florida. Football is kind of a big deal there. And when it would, I mean, obviously lightning things have to be canceled, but when it would be raining and the ball is slippery and you're a defensive player, and that's what I specialized in, is ball hawking and defense, man. And you know that you can just put your face mask right on the ball carrier, right on that football and knock that thing out, man. It just provides so many opportunities for turnover. And I'm hoping that we can turn over your Senate seat as well. I want to talk to you a little bit about educators and politics, and just kind of go back to this a little bit. Do you think that in the educational system, and this is going to be personal stuff, this doesn't really have anything to do with your campaign, but it does describe who you are as a person and what your beliefs are. Have you noticed in schools and in the educational system that the cancel culture is not something new? This is something that's been going on for many years, as systematically, we've been getting rid of teaching actual history in our schools. And I know that you said that you're a math guy, but can you see that educators are taking the actual objective history out of their teachings and really doing more prophesizing and more social justice type teaching now and lecturing? Is that a real thing inside of the schools?
I think the best way to kind of answer that is it's kind of just like any other job where you have people who are going to stick to their duties and really go and, hammer home their subject, whatever they're passionate about, and they're going to really perform that duty because that's really what they love to do. That's their passion. Then you do have, some other ones where I don't know if I'd necessarily call them necessarily bad apples or that they have bad intentions, but they're, what I would say is not necessarily performing the teaching duties. Their job is to teach, like you said, just teach it objectively. The kids and the families and everybody should make their decisions off of that. But yeah, we definitely do have some that do kind of push their own moral opinion when they're talking. And so that's where it's like, it really depends, I think, on the school district and the school areas. I've heard some stories in certain districts from either parents or friends where they've told me stories where they're like, yeah, man, I can't believe this or this happened, or that the teacher said this. But in my own personal experiences, I actually don't see a lot of that happening in the classrooms. I see them, objectively putting stuff out there, showing a lot of both sides, and I shouldn't even say both sides, but multiple sides to a story, and just kind of letting the kids make their own decisions and judgments based off of that. And so I really think it is kind of very similar to other jobs where, you have the great performers, they're doing it well, and you have those other people who are kind of doing what they want. And so that's where we just need to keep focusing on. And that's where kind of tying this back to how you started. That's why you getting involved with these local elections and your school board races and seeing what is your school board putting out, what is your school board doing, where are they spending the money. That's why those races are so important.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of the races that most people skip over.
Some of these referendums and some of these budgeting stuff that you look at with schools, it just is so, it makes you just shake your head. It'll give you a headache and you wonder, where in the hell is all of this money going? The only way that you can hold these people accountable is by putting your fingers right into it. Go to these school board meetings, listen to them, go to your city council meetings, go to your, go to your city hall and demand answers from people and demand some reform, which, by the way, in Ben's spare time, you can see him down at the state capitol advocating for education reform. What kind of reform do you want to see, and what are you going to push for when you're elected to the state senate?
A couple of my big pushes is first trying to more streamline some of the special ed paperwork and process that they have, and then also just general education paperwork that we have. We have a lot of paperwork that's dictated by the federal and state government that doesn't really do anything for the child. It kind of gives us some time. We're documenting what we're doing, but instead of us actually collaborating and having time to come up with great lessons or come up with great interventions and work or contact parents and develop relationships, we have to spend all this time doing all this different paperwork. And so one of the big things would be to streamline that so that way we can actually free up our teachers to develop more time with the kids and develop better lessons and more innovative lessons. So that's one of the first things I'd like to do. And then the other part of that also is that would actually come with some cuts to that area, because we wouldn't be paying then people at the state level to have to be processing all this paperwork or to be auditing this different paperwork. So it'd actually also be then a budget saving. The other different parts that I'd like to really address is really the funding formula. It has not been revisited in years in how we fund the schools and how we divvy out the money and are looking at the kids. And so that one I think is really can be a bipartisan effort of we need to update this. We need to make sure that the money is going correctly to the schools that need it, and also making sure that the budgets are transparent so that way the legislature can tell, is this funding formula actually serving the kids in the way it's intended?
Richard,
we do have certain districts that can barely, fund themselves. And then we have other districts who have like a 26% fund balance where they just have it sitting in the side. And so it's really, we've got the money there. We need to make sure it's actually getting to the schools that need it.
Richard, Ben Schwanke is on our show here, and he's talking about having lessons that actually are good for kids rather than bureaucratic red tape. And is that something we can do here? Can we talk facts? Is that okay?
I don't know.
Common sense is that.
Yeah.
I know. Common sense, is that something that we can still do today? I mean, it's 2020. To hear that is actually mind blowing, refreshing. I absolutely love it. Yeah, we may get canceled for this. Ben comes on the show, and all of a sudden we're going to get censored and canceled for having some common sense and actually holding government accountable. That's a big thing for conservatives, is shrinking government and holding government accountable. And it sounds like your platform absolutely is 100% in line with that. Doing something good for kids is super rewarding. They're the future of our country. They're one day going to be taking care of us, wiping our asses while we're in nursing homes and taking elected positions and running this damn ship. And so them having an appropriate education that starts with actual applicable lessons, and then having a school that has the appropriate infrastructure and necessary programming because of budgeting that makes sense, that's able to give those resources to those kids. That is something that we need here that has long since gone by the wayside as this like slush fund of money just pours into the educational system with little to no accountability. I applaud you for that, sir.
Yes, I do as well.
Thank
and
you.
Say,
I mean, I really
second,
appreciate
Ben.
that. And I just want to kind of change one little thing. Is it's like I like to really describe conservatism as right-sizing government.
There you go.
Right? It's not necessarily, it's limiting it, it's making it smaller, but it's really what size and where should it go? Because as the left likes to say, we're continually in changing times. Things are developing, but we don't develop and change government with that. And so a lot of these programs need to continually be reevaluated and right-sized so that it's actually helping the people that they're intended to help.
Richard,
I was just gonna to say, you had talked about, streamlining all this paperwork, and that kind of hit home with me, just because. Oh, I got a hair. Just because one of my kids, he's 15 now, he's in 10th grade, and He was an IEP student at one point, and I felt like we were doing more paperwork to come up with a plan for his education than we were actually talking about what the plan was. And we had to fill out paperwork and sign this, and let's go over this, and here's the rules, and all this other stuff. Well, in the meantime, you have 1 hour because teachers are busy, right? You got students in classrooms, you have 1 free hour a day. And now they've given that up to talk with me about my son's education. And we spent 48 minutes sifting through a pile of paperwork and not talking about what is really important for him to be able to learn and move on to the next level. So I can appreciate the streamlining of paperwork, because I don't think a whole lot of stuff gets done, in these short times you have to actually sit down face to face with your child's teachers.
And that's where I think, like you said, you're hitting it right on the head. These are all mandated stuff, and so instead of actually having that real conversation with parents or that real conversation with students, all of a sudden we're spending all this other time just making sure that the paperwork is correct for the government, so that way we don't get dinged from the government because we missed a paragraph in one place and it's further down the page instead of 2 paragraphs up. It's just ridiculous on that. And like you're saying is, especially our special needs population, that could be for many different reasons. And so a lot of these special ed teachers who do phenomenal work, by the way, are sitting there, creating and individualizing all these plans and these things for these students. And then also for a lot of them, having multiple preps through multiple different subjects and still delivering content at their level and raising their levels that they're at. So if you can think of all that time that they need to put in to be able to make a good lesson there, and as you were illustrating before, all the time that's wasted on paperwork, just imagine how much more we could get done and how much better our kids would be off if we were not just sitting there spending that time with the families filling out paperwork together and actually having a conversation of what do you notice works best at home? Okay, we notice this works best at school. Could you try that at home? Could we try it at school? And actually have a conversation about how to continue and best support the student.
Man, more common sense on the show. One of the big factors in elections, whether it be presidential or whether it be the U.S. Senate or the state Senate, it always comes down to, I think, a couple of the most important things that weigh on the minds of Americans, specifically Minnesotans, is the economy and healthcare. Obviously, you're going to have an opinion on healthcare. Let's go there. What's your healthcare stance?
My healthcare stance is that we need to make sure the market is open for sure. And then actually make that transparent and reform kind of what the market is about. Because right now we don't have a true market system. And so if we can make that happen and actually give the freedom for people to go out and buy what they need and what fits themselves and their family, we can start to drive down costs that way. Then the other way is actually getting healthcare costs down, not necessarily health insurance. Everybody's concerned about the insurance, but nobody's actually talking about, is that insurance giving you care? Or can you afford the care after you've bought the insurance? And then how much the care is actually jacking up the cost of insurance. So we're all talking a lot of times in these conversations about the wrong part. And so that's where first and foremost, I want to get some sort of bill passed about price transparency and at least get something started in that direction. Because you've seen it with other elective surgeries that, they're first invented, they're not covered by insurance. They find a way to keep improving so that they can lower the cost. And now you have different dermatology surgeries that are affordable. You have different weight loss ones, hair loss ones, all these different ones that aren't covered by insurance and are completely affordable.
So are you telling me that when you
because
go to...
you know what you're paying.
Right. So are you telling me that when you go to buy a vehicle, Ben, that you ask what the price is before you sign out on the car? You're telling me that you actually inquire as to whether or not this is the vehicle for you before you sign out on the car? Wait a minute. What about interest rate and payments? You mean you're telling me that you don't just sign it? You have to know all of these things before you get involved and whether or not you can afford it and whether or not it's going to fit you? Because one size does not fit all when it comes to the cars. I'm not driving a smart car because, one, my fat ass isn't going to fit in the damn thing. And number two, I'm not going to drive a smart car in a blizzard in the state of Minnesota, whereas it might work for, a college-age, petite little girl in the Floridian climate. It just doesn't work for me. One size does not fit all with vehicles, and just the same with healthcare, I think is what I'm hearing you say here.
Absolutely. And that's what I keep kind of saying, and it kind of boggles my mind sometimes with this is, any educator knows that one size doesn't fit all. We preach that over and over and over again in education, right? That's one of our biggest struggles is that, in the amount of time we have with the amount of students, it's kind of like we're almost forced into a one size fits all, and we're trying our best to break out of that. And that transfers over to every other thing. And so that's where it does boggle my mind that, we do have some of these other elected educators who think the one size fits all works for government, but somehow doesn't work in the school.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anywhere because we're all different.
Right. I'm up against a hard break, and I just have about 1 minute left here. What I like to do at the end when I have any candidate on is ask you, what is the most important message, if you could say anything to 1 million people on iHeartRadio, which you are doing right now? What do you want the Minnesotans who are in your district that are considering whether a vote for you or the incumbent, what do you want them to know is most important to Ben Schwanke?
The most important thing to me is this community and this district, and really making sure that our businesses are able to thrive still, and we can continue to have the great schools that we do. And that's really only going to take place if we elect somebody who's willing to listen to all sides of the aisle and represent all the people in our district, and not just make this a partisan race. We can talk about the issues, we can talk about everything else, and that's exactly what I'll do, is actually talk and listen and learn from the people in the community, so that way I can best represent this community at the state Senate.
Awesome. We appreciate you coming on the show. If you want to support him or if you want to know anything more about Ben, schwankeforsenate.com. That's SCHWANKE Senate.com. You can donate there and check out more about his platform. Ben, make it a fantastic day, and thanks a lot for taking the time with us. Appreciate it.
You guys too. You guys have a great day, and thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Anytime, and we'll be following up on whether or not he is successful. We wish him the best, and we certainly hope that this is Richard. This is what we need. We need more people with common sense approaches to government. We can't continue to do this elitist type mentality where the government decides what's best for you. We have to have somebody who takes our educational system seriously, knows what healthcare means for everybody, and wants to implement that stuff when they get into the government. So my best wishes to Ben Schwanke, schwankeforsenate.com, schwankeforsenate.com. And with that, your final thoughts, Richard.
Well, the common sense felt awkward today, but to debate tonight, folks, buckle up, and then we're going to go vote to defund the mute button.
Yeah. I will venture to guess that there may not even be a damn debate tonight. I hope there is. Until tomorrow at 4 o'clock, make sure that you buckle up, like Richard says, and stick around. More from iHeart.